The Grand Theft Auto franchise is no stranger to strange, creepy, and even disturbing content. I mean, most of us know this by now, right? Sure, it's known mostly for its over-the-top parodies and satire, which is at the forefront of a lot of these games. But there are some darker elements which have been in these games since the very beginning. From small Easter eggs to urban legends to full-on creepy characters interwoven into the plot. And today, we're going to take a look at such a character, one that was cut from Grand Theft Auto 3. We're looking at a character that was so disturbing that he had to be cut from the final release of the game, and that character is Darkel, Grand Theft Auto's most disturbing cut character. So who exactly is Darkel? Well, he is an NPC that was planned to play a major role in Grand Theft Auto 3, and would have given multiple missions to Claude. However, at some point in development, presumably very late, he was cut. However, there's still quite a lot of interesting things to look at here, as some of his missions still technically made it into the game, just in different ways. Not to mention models for the character still actually exist in the files, and he is even named and featured in the game's credits and manuals. And these right here are his character models. One is his up-close character model, and the other is a LOD, or level of detail model, which would make it easier to render in the game when he is far away from the player. And of course, he is named Darkel in the game's credits, and is said to have been voiced by Bill Fiore, although no voice lines of the character have ever been found. But from looking at the model, we can see that he is an old man wearing some raggedy-looking clothes, similar to the tramps that can be found in the game. But what exactly makes Darkel so disturbing? Well, it's his cut missions. Now, this is where things get a bit dicey, as we don't know exactly what all of his missions would have entailed, as they were of course cut. However, Darkel's missions have been the subject of much speculation, rumor, and debates for many years now. Although there is one mission we know for sure he was involved in, a mission that still remains in the game today, and that is called I Scream, You Scream. Now, although it can still be found in the game today, the mission is not exactly the same. Obviously in the final release, it's not Darkel who gives the player this mission, but rather the character El Burro, and would involve Claude, the player's character, tracking down and stealing an ice cream truck, rigging it with explosives, and playing the truck's jingle near some members of a rival gang faction, before ultimately blowing it up, killing the gang members. But in an interview with IGN about the game before it was released, the character of Darkel was discussed, as well as a mission that sounds very similar to I Scream, You Scream, except it was even more disturbing, as Darkel would task the player with stealing the same ice cream truck and rigging it with explosives, but this time, instead of at the docks, it would take place in the middle of a park, and the targets weren't Forelli gang members, but rather random innocent pedestrians passing by. And because of this, he's been the subject of a lot of speculation over the years. See, without any word from Rockstar as to what really went on with this character and his missions, it was just left to people's imaginations, as Rockstar was quoted as saying about the original ice cream truck mission that it was, quote, dark, evil, and gruesome, which probably fueled the fires of more rumors and speculations. Probably the most well-known of these, and the most shocking, was a mission thought to be titled Child's Play, which would have had Darkel tasking Claude with blowing up a bus full of children. And there were a bunch of these kinds of missions that were spread around on forums during that time, such as a mission where you would fly a dodo, one of the planes in the game, and bomb a stadium, or even blow up a high school building, or just other random rampage-like missions, where your goal is essentially to just kill civilians and cause chaos. And one of the other most famous examples of these rumored missions was called the Love Hurts, which a lot of people thought was Darkel's final mission, which would task the player with destroying the Love Media building and killing Donald Love using a dodo. Which a lot of people believe to be true, with evidence pointing to this being that there was a cutscene in Liberty City Stories where, inside the house of Donald Love, there could be seen a tramp walking around with a Molotov cocktail, possibly a reference to Darkel's gang or even Darkel himself. However, after years of pretty wild and rampant speculation about Darkel, we finally got some solid answers from Rockstar. On December 15th, 2011, Rockstar hosted a Q&A on GTA 3, and of course, Darkel was one of the most hot topics. They responded, quote, "Darkel was just a crazy bum who gave you some crazy missions." They were removed a few months before the game was done and long before 9/11 because they just weren't as good as the rest of the game, and tonally they were a little odd. He started with 5 missions, and they were slowly all cut. When only 1 or 2 were left, they were all removed, as the character just didn't work alongside the other characters. None of these missions involved blowing up buses of school children, although that is a funny rumor, end quote. So that basically debunks the school bus mission, which, to be honest, did sound pretty far-fetched, even for Rockstar. But also we learned that there were 5 missions at one point, but we still don't know what these would have involved, except of course for the ice cream truck mission. When asked about the other beta Darkel missions, Rockstar said, quote, "No. The guys at Rockstar North are far too busy working on future stuff to ever figure out how to fix those old unfinished missions and get them running." As for the alleged Love Hurts mission, well, this was also a hoax, as Rockstar confirmed that the plane used in the mission, the Dodo, was not actually meant to be flown in missions or much at all for that matter, saying, quote, "The Dodo was never meant to be flown very much at all, and it certainly wasn't grounded as a result of 9/11. It was just a fun thing that people then went crazy with when they figured out various bugs that let them fly it." So yeah, all of these alleged missions were actually just fabricated, and we don't know for certain what those other 4 missions with Darkel would have entailed, although if the one mission we do know about is anything to go by, you can see why there was such creepy and disturbing speculations about his other missions. But what about the Rampage missions? Or kill frenzies as they were known back then in GTA 1 and 2. Well, it seems that Darkel was actually planned to give out those kill frenzy missions, as this was revealed in the 2001 Game Informer issue 95, where it states that Darkel's missions replace the kill frenzy missions from the first 2 games, and that he will give you missions along the lines of, quote, "Kill 20 pedestrians in 5 minutes. And that Darkel would actually reward the player with special items that you could only get from completing his missions. However, at some point, this was just changed into the Rampages, which are now a staple of the franchise. The only real difference between Rampages and Kill Frenzies being that you don't kill pedestrians like you did in GTA 1 and 2, and possibly in Darkel's missions, but instead kill different types of gang members in each Rampage. This is also hinted at in the files of the game, as the model for the skull pickup, which is how you activate Rampages in the final game, is actually called Kill Frenzy. Another interesting thing about Darkel is he might have been the leader of a gang of tramps, which are still in the final game, and appear in this tunnel, wielding Molotov cocktails. Which makes you wonder if they could have been up to the crazy stuff Darkel would have had Claude doing. And the reason this group is even thought to be tied to Darkel is not just because Darkel himself seems like a homeless person due to his design, but rather because on the GTA 3 web flash map, if you went to the harbor tunnel where this gang is located, you would see the gang in a screenshot alongside Darkel's model, which is actually slightly different from his in-game model. Also on one of the game's promotional websites that represented a newspaper in the game called Liberty Tree, there was an entry which might hint at what's going on with this group of tramps. The article's called "Strange Tramps Seen All Over Liberty City," and in it, we hear that, quote, "The Liberty Tree can exclusively reveal all is not as it seems in the street communities of Liberty City. These vagrants are not happy, and they are not the innocent dipsomaniacs we all once gave them credit for. Oh no. Police reports increasingly point to lunatics on the streets, terrifying innocent people and fighting and demanding justice. But they don't know what's caused the rise in problems between those who have and those who have not, apart from body odor. One theory is that tramps are layabouts who don't deserve any respect anyway, have brought it on themselves and don't deserve any sympathy. And while that theory is very popular in America generally, our exclusive investigation reveals darker forces than mere consumer capitalism are at work in our town. A spate of illegal distilleries have been discovered, pushing an evil filth called boomshine, a toxic waste ground of a drink so strong that it's believed to have driven large portions of Liberty City's homeless community completely insane, with terrifying results. One respectable person said, "The tramps have gone insane. and they don't even pay taxes. It is a city-wide disgrace. Another said, I was walking my dog, and a tramp tried to eat it. Luckily, I kicked the offending vagrant 30 or 40 times, so I think he learned his lesson. I doubt he'll attack an innocent dog again. Here at the Liberty Tree, we have received 3 or 4 calls from people with similar stories. All we can say to respectable people is, think twice before giving that quarter. These maniacs are out to get all of us, end quote. Now, this was all written before the game was actually released, and might have been there to clarify in the story what was going on with Darkel and the rest of the tramps, but of course, this article and most of the media in the Grand Theft Auto games are merely a satirical look at American politics and media as a whole. So I'm not really sure if this gives any credence to a deeper storyline with Darkel and his gang, but it's interesting nonetheless. But that's pretty much where Darkel's story ends, at least in the vanilla game. Some of the rumored missions have been added to the game via mods, where you can actually experience what this urban legend may have been like in-game. But as far as for what was really planned with Darkel, we only know parts of the story, and there may be more to it than Rockstar is telling us. But let me know what you guys think about Darkel. What do you think those other missions could have involved? And why do you think he was really cut so late into development?